Hi, this is Teresa, and today we're going to make hawthorn honey. Come on, let me show you a hawthorn tree. Here's a little hawthorn tree, and you can tell it by its distinct leaves, and there are thorns on the hawthorn, so be careful when you pick the berries. Hawthorns are part of the rose family. Apples are in the rose family, and these actually remind me of little apples. They have a lot of pectin in them. They are great for the heart. So I make a hawthorn oxymel, which is half apple cider vinegar and half honey, for my husband to help him with his blood pressure. I love the hawthorn honey. I enjoy adding honey to my lemon water every morning, and hawthorn is a wonderful support for reducing stress. It's also full of flavonoids and antioxidants. Caffeic acid is one of my favorite because it actually heals damaged cells, which is amazing to me. Okay, now I've got my bowl of hawthorn, and I'm going to take the berries off the stems, and I'm going to separate them, and then I'm going to mash the berries to be used for the honey. Hawthorn is anti-tumor, anti-cancer, and antimicrobial. And antimicrobial means that it's antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral, which is a great support these days. So here's our hawthorn berries. I've measured them out in a jar that I'm going to use to make the honey, and I saved a few of the leaves. There are different properties in the leaves and stems that are medicinal as well. So I'm going to chop up some of these leaves. I'm going to use scissors, just all personal preference. You can put it on a cutting board, and if you've got a sharp knife, you can just go ahead and chop them up. So I don't know if you noticed, but I did not wash anything. So that was something that was hard for me at the beginning, but I took a herbalist class from Cedar Mountain Herb School, and herbalists, when you're wildcrafting, do not wash their wild berries and their wild products before they process them. So all those wonderful prebiotics and just any of the bacteria out in the wild is healing for the body as well. So I just have this wild crafted berries and leaves, and I do want to pick out like anything that's not super healthy, so any brown leaves or yellow leaves, I'm going to pull those out. Now I'm just going to mash with a glass. I'm going to mash the berries up. In the hawthorn berry, there is a big seed, so it's a little more difficult to chop with a knife. Okay, so I've mashed the berries, and that just opens up all those cells. And now I'm going to take the berries and the leaves, and I'm going to pour it into my mason jar, and it should be about 3/4 full. Okay, so I'm actually just using a spaghetti jar that I'm repurposing, and so you might enjoy like the wide mouth mason jars would be easier to put your berries in, but this works, and this was the right size jar for the amount of honey that I wanted to make, so I just went ahead and repurposed a spaghetti jar. So I want this to be about 3/4 full, maybe a little bit more than that. I have a few extra berries that I will set aside. So I was getting my honey from Skagit Valley, and the bee farmer in Skagit Valley was actually selling most of her honey to Costco. So when I found that out, I started buying raw Washington honey from Costco, knowing that this amazing bee farmer was selling her honey wholesale to Costco. It was also a little bit cheaper and much more convenient for me to go to Costco than to drive up to Skagit Valley. But this process might take a little while. We're going to pour the honey over all the berries, but we're not going to force it. We're going to pour the honey, and it's just going to go down naturally. So it's very important to remember to label all of your herbal remedies. This will take 6 weeks to process. I go ahead and I just write hawthorn honey, and I write today's date, and then October 6th it will be ready. That is my reminder that I can strain out the hawthorn on October 6th. Okay, that's how we make Hawthorn honey. So all the honey is now gone through the berries, and I have filled it up to the top. So you want honey at the top of your jar. In the 6 weeks, that honey is going to pull the medicinal properties out of the berries, and all of those wonderful constituents will be in your honey for you to consume. My favorite way is making lemon water. You can also put hawthorn honey in your tea, and hawthorn helps you feel like you just received a hug. It helps with stress and just helps your whole body to calm down. So stay tuned for part 2 when we will strain out the honey in 6 weeks.